Okay, we will continue the examples related to the lexical scoping and the dynamic scoping. So let us take one example with respect to the nested lexical scopes. Because when you have a small number of procedures and less number of variables, and if the variable names are not reused, then you will not have much difficulty in accessing. You can easily handle it. But whenever you have the nested code and also the names are reused, and when you have more number of procedures, then only the difficulty level also will increase. So let us see how to handle that for this particular code. This is the code which I have discussed previously also. We have taken some function, say main, and in that function we are calling some function, say FIE, and then we have some procedures like one procedure, say FEE, another procedure, say FIE, and then FOE, and then FUM. There are many procedures. Okay, this is a very good example because it covers the nested structure basically. Before whatever code I had discussed there, we were not maintaining this subscript. Okay, means if you notice here, main 0, some subscript has been added. Similarly, fee 1, some subscript is added. FIE 1 subscript is added. For FOE 2 is added. FUM 3 is added. Okay, did you notice something? Why this subscript, is it having any relevance with respect to this code? Earlier also I have discussed this code. If you can identify something, let us see. I'll give a minute for you people to think and say what can be the relevance of this subscript value in this code. Any answers, students?
It is a scope.
Yes.
It's telling the scope of the variable, like what level is it in.
Yeah, very good, Vishnu. Yes, that's it. Okay, so you would have seen some call graph before. I have shown you one call graph where main will call some function and then that function will call another function and so on. So that levels we can maintain. And why this level is required? Because we need to know the scope of that particular variable. So one thing is that we are maintaining the subscript for all these procedures, okay, including main. And also coming back to our variables. So earlier, if you recall or if you go back and see, I would have just used X, Y, Z instead of using X1, Y1, Z1 or X2, Y2, Z3. These we were not using. We were only using X, Y, Z. That's it. And the same names were reused. Now here again, we can have the subscripts to show the level numbers and how the scopes are changing when they enter into the function and when it is redeclared in some other part of the code. So with that, we can easily identify the scope. Okay, so that's why here for XYZ, actually the variable names are XYZ only. We have reframed this code in such a way that we also take care of the scope of the variables. That's it. But actual code would be what? We will not have all these subscripts. Main will be just main and all these procedures will be just the procedure names, not the subscript. Similarly, for variable names also, I would have taken X, Y, Z. Wherever X comes, it is just X, and wherever Y comes, it is just Y, and similarly Z. Okay. Now let us see how this works. And also I was telling maybe if you recall during the symbol table description, I had told there is something called a static coordinate which is used that will help you to track, and it will give you the access for a particular variable at some offset. So the same concept is used here also, because the way we access is similar, whether it is a symbol table or any other record present in the memory. Okay, so here also we are going to use a similar kind of notation, and we maintain a table for managing all these static coordinates whenever it is the lexical scope. So let us see how that table is created. Okay. Okay, so this is what I was telling about how to create this table we will see slowly. Before that also I would like to show two diagrams. One is showing the nesting relationship and the other one is showing the calling relationships. So these two diagrams are important because this only will show you the difference between the lexical scope and the dynamic scope. For the lexical scope, we'll be using the nesting relationships, and for the dynamic scope, we'll be using the calling relationships. Similarly, for the lexical scope, we will be using the static coordinates, and for the dynamic scope, we are going to use the dynamic coordinates. Okay, let us see the difference now. And now coming to the diagram here, if you see this diagram, how it is created, we will just map and see with our code. So we have the main that will become the root, and then how the procedures are present, how they are embedded. So that's what is known as the nesting relationship. So when you take up main within main, so here if you take the first line, program main, and you have some parameters there, and then we have some variables declared. Okay, so like x1, y1, and z1. These are the variables that are declared within the main, and these are supposed to be the global variables. Okay, and coming inside, what we have is within main, what do we have? We have one procedure called P. So that we have some declaration inside, and also we have the begin and end for that, and the body of this fee is present here only. Okay, so this is one procedure, that is fee. And we have another procedure, say FIE. Within that also some declaration is there. Within that another procedure is there, the declaration of the procedure, declaration of the variables. And within that another procedure is there, say FUM, declaration of that, and the body of that, and so on. Like this it is present. So if you observe this structure, anyway it is well indented also, so you can easily make out what is nested in what. Okay, so if you take up this code and if you try to write the graph for it, it looks like this. For main, we have initially we have fee, which is independent, and we don't have anything inside fee. That's why it is just a leaf node. Okay, and then coming to FIE, so within main we have FIE also. So FIE is there. Within FIE we have FOE, and within FOE we have FUM. And the body also has been implemented here only. So whatever function it is doing, so that is also there. Okay, so this gives the relationship of the nested structure. And similarly, there is another graph which is actually showing the calling sequence, where you are going to see the call statements from which function what is called. So like from, if I start from main, so that will be the root node, and from main first call is what? FIE. So it goes there, FIE. So once you enter FIE, you are going to search for the next call. So next call is what? Within the body of the FIE, you have to see the body of the FIE, where you are calling another function, say FOE. So this is what we have called. So that's what is the relationship here. And then once you enter the body of FOE, body of FOE is here. The first call would be FEE. It will complete that and return back. And then the next call would be FUM. So FUM, and it will return back. Where it will return back? It will return from wherever it was called. It will return back there, and then it will continue its execution. So it comes back over here, and then also when you run through the FUM, what happens? It is once again calling FEE. So that's what is the relationship shown here. From FOE also FEE is called, and FUM also FEE is called. So that gives the depth, and also it gives the calling sequence. So now let us see, using these structures and using these graphs, how to create the static table. That is a static coordinates table. So first thing is we have three variables x, y, z. So all the variables you list out, and then starting from the main. So from the main, when I start with the x, okay, when I start with the x, remember that variable, this particular line for main, it is nothing but the global declaration, where all these variables are accessible from all the procedures. So x1, y1, z1. So in the last class, I had mentioned that whenever we declare the variable, so this is the first variable encountered. That is, x is the first variable encountered. So what happens once we know the size of this particular data because it is of type integer. We are taking 4 bytes. So the offset of this x would be what? 0. Then the offset of y would be what? It is starting at say 4 because 0, 1, 2, 3 has been used for x. Then the next variable is what? Z, and therefore it is what? It is at 8. So this is what we are going to get as an offset. So there are two fields, right? The first field is the level and the second field is the offset. So I just told about the offset. Now coming to the main, for x, what is the level? See, when I started with the main, I just initialized x is equal to 0, which I call it as x1 because it is at the level 1. Why? Before the main, whatever is there, I take it as level 0. Okay, level 0. Then once I enter some function, once I enter some function, then the level becomes 1. So this procedure FEE as well as the procedure FIE, they are at level 1. Means when we are inside the function, means once we started with the main, the scope also starts, and the scope of this x, whatever we use here, that will be 1. That's why the level of x is 1 at main, and the level of y is also 1, and the level of z is also 1. Okay, so we are starting with that level now. Means before I start up with the main, I have assumed the level as 0. That is, the main is at the root node and the level of the main is 0. And once it enters the body of the main, we are going to take it as level 1. And the offset also already I have explained 0, 4, 8. So now coming to the next procedure is what? Phi. So add phi is what? The procedure is here. Within the phi, what we have is we don't have the declaration. If you notice, we don't have the declaration for y and z, but we have the declaration for only x. So what does it mean then? So inside the phi function, we are going to re-declare for x, and for other variables, we are going to use the previous scope itself. That's what it means. So for x alone, if you notice, the level has been increased to 2 and the offset is still 0 because that is the first variable and that is the only variable which is declared in phi. And coming to y, we don't have any declaration inside the phi function. So the level is same and the offset is also same, whatever was there before, the same thing. Similarly for z also, it remains the same. We don't change that. Okay, so that's what is mentioned in this diagram also. I have just kept track of all these. So after main, I have declared x1, y1, z1, and that is in that scope. And once you enter some function, the scope varies according to the declaration. So at phi, we have redeclared as x2, and for y1, whatever y1 we are using, that is exactly from the previous scope, that is the global scope. So that is about the phi function. Coming to the FIE function. FIE function, if you notice, within the FIE, we have the variable declared as y2. Okay, means now the scope of the variable y will change inside this FIE function, and we have not redeclared for x and we have not redeclared for z. Also, please notice that that's why this nesting structure is important. FIE is independent of FEE function. It is not nested inside that. So it is independent. Means FIE will only carry the variable scopes from the main if it is not redeclared. If it is redeclared, then it will be using the recent scope. So for FIE function, x will not change and z will not change. Only for y it is going to change. Therefore, the level has been increased for y, that is 2. That's why we are calling it as y2. And what about this offset? We are going to start the offset at 0 only because that is the first variable. Suppose I had x before, means I would have taken x2. Then I would have taken the 0 for x2 and 4 for y2. But now we don't have x variable, we have only y variable. That's why the offset for y remains 0. It is not 4 now, the offset has been changed and the level also has been changed. Whereas for X and Y, it remains the same. And why the level 2? Because from the main, after entering into the main, we were at level 1. Now it is increased by 1. So the level is 2. And that's how this Y2 exists. Means at this particular level, it is reusing the scope of X1 and Z1, and only for Y the scope has changed. So coming to the next function is what? FOE. FOE function. Inside FOE, what do we have? We have only declaration for Z3. We have only declaration for Z3, that is Z. Okay, and it is now real. Before it was integer. Similarly for Y also, before we had integer, now we have changed the data type also into real. So now for FOE, what happens? We have to retain the previous scope for other variables, that is for X. So X, did we had any changes into X in the FIE? No. So what happens for FOE? X1 scope still remains, that is same. And what about Y? So you are not going to use Y1 scope now. Why? Because FOE function is inside FIE function. Therefore, whichever is the recent scope that it has to use. So it will be using the recent scope, that is nothing but 2, 0. So for Y, it is going to use Y2 scope, and for Z, it is going to introduce a new scope at the new level, that is 3, 0. 0 is the offset because that is the only variable that is declared. We don't have X, we don't have Y, and it is only Z, and the offset is 0. So it starts with that address now. So that is about FOE. So FOE means we have only Z3 introduced, and what about X? X, it will be X1, and for Y, it will be Y2. That is the scope, and Z is the new scope. And coming to the next function is what? FUM. Note that FUM is inside FOE and FOE is inside FIE. So now whatever declarations we do, it has to increase the level, and therefore it has been taken as Y4. Because if I had introduced at FOE, it would have become Y3. Now the level will increase. Therefore, what happens? So for FUM, X will not change because again we have not redeclared anything for X. So X1 scope will remain the same, but for Y it will change. So that's why we have made it as 4, 0. And that is the first variable, and that is the only variable declared inside FUM. Therefore, it becomes 4, 0. And for the Z, we don't have any changes because we have not declared anything inside FUM. So the previous scope remains, therefore it is 3, 0. So for FUM, it looks like this. That is only for Y we have changed, it becomes Y4, and it is the level also should be maintained. It should match properly. So whatever depth you are maintaining, you should see inside main I am taking level 1, and inside phi I am taking level 2, and inside FOE I am taking 3, and inside FUM I am taking 4. So that's how it is taken. So therefore, it is taken as Y4, and the offset is 0. For X, still will be using X1 only. So at this stage, I'll be using X1 and Y4 and Z3. That's what is the scope. Okay, for FEE, already I have explained. For FEE, only X2 will change. Y1 and Z1 will be reused from the previous scope. That is the scope of the main itself. It is going to take. And that's how the static coordinates are constructed. Okay, so I think now it is very clear. Do you have any doubts? You can ask me, students. For this particular example, it is a very good example because we have nested structure, and you can easily find the scope of every variable used within the procedure. When it is redeclared, you can change the scope and you can increase the level number if it is nested. And also you should maintain the offset because it's very important to have the offset. Anytime if you want to access something, then it helps. Static coordinate helps. Now if I want to access the variable y inside the function FOE, then it's very easy. I should only know the level number and the offset. It's very easy to access. That's how the static coordinates helps. Okay, any doubts in this slide you can ask. If you don't have any doubts, I will proceed with the same example but with the dynamic scope. Any doubts, students?
Ma'am, actually only the dynamic scope we used the recently I mean the recent scope, right?
No, in the dynamic, what happens is we actually push the names onto the stack. From there, we will take. So I will cover the next example also with the dynamic scope. Then we will discuss. We will compare both. Okay, that will be fine. Is it Priyadarsan?
Yes, ma'am. Like here inside procedure FIE, there is procedure FOE.
Yes,
But
it is embedded.
but
Yes.
it is not mandatory for the main function. In order to call FOE, we need not call FIE. We can directly access FOE, like by calling FOE. Like
Okay,
in a,
what you are saying is you want to directly call some internal function. That's what you are saying.
yes, ma'am. Then
From the main, you are saying.
from main we are calling FOE2.
Okay. From the main, you are saying you are going to call FOE.
Huh. And inside FOE we have some function. We have some result is equal to y into x plus 1.
Okay.
So we but in FIE is a master function for FOE. In
Yeah,
that
yeah.
y has a scope level of 2. But
Okay.
since we are directly calling FOE,
Hmm.
what will be what will be the subscript of y? Whether it is
Okay.
the y1 or y2.
Okay, so I will cover the next example and then come back to this. Then only it will be clear for you because I will not be using the nesting relationship at all for the dynamic coordinates. Okay, so that if you know no difference, then your doubt I think it will be clarified. Otherwise, I'll come back and clarify. Okay. For
Yes, ma'am.
now, I will keep it pending. I will finish the next slide and then maybe you will only understand or we will see that. Okay. So shall I proceed with the next slide then? Because only
Okay.
once I explain dynamic coordinates, you will understand that concept. Okay, let us see the next slide. Okay. So in the next slide, the same example, there is no change in the code. It's the same thing. Only thing is that now how do we construct the dynamic coordinates? That's what we have to worry. Now, as I mentioned, for the static coordinates, what did we use? We used the nesting relationships. But for the dynamic coordinates, we will not be using the nesting relationship. Instead, we'll be using the calling relationships. Okay. Now, let us see how to construct and how to this diagram, how to get, you know very well, like how the calls are made. Based on that only, it will have the call graph, and from here we will be able to access and we will be able to find the scopes of the variables, and then we will fill this table. Okay, so let us start from the first function, that is a main. Okay, so from main, when I start, what happens? From main, anyway, you are going to see the depth also, like how it is called. So at level 0 it has been called, and at level 1 FIE, and then FOE, and then if you go through this path, it is FUM, and then back to FEE. That is one path, and the other one is what 0, 1, 2, 3. It will return back, and then it will call FUM, and that's it. So whatever sequence you want to take, you can take. But for this code only, this particular graph has been created. If you want to take up a new code, and accordingly the call graph also will be created. Okay, please remember that. So this call graph has been created only based on your code. So in whatever sequence you have called, in whatever way you have represented your code, based on that only this call graph will be created. So now coming to how to find the scope of these variables, right? So from main, when I start, as you know, x1, y1, z1, this will not change. So the first line, whatever I have for main in the dynamic coordinates also, it remains the same, because that is the first declaration. It is the global declaration. Then coming to the next function is what it has called FIE. From main, we have called FIE. Okay, so coming to FIE, what happens now? Inside FIE, what is that? We have the declaration for. So now you can maintain something like this. Yesterday I was speaking about the stack, which will follow the names. So we have X1, we have Y1, okay, and then we have Z1, which is maintained. for the names. Okay, and now when I call this function FIE, what happens? I also get one new variable, that is Y2. Okay, Y2. So that is pushed onto the stack. Now coming to the coordinates. So anyway, first one, it will not change. Coming to FIE, when I go through the FIE, what happens? I don't have any declaration for X, so it remains the same, and I have the declaration for Y, that is Y2, and it is going to take the level as 2, and the offset is going to be 0. Here also you are not seeing much difference, right? And then coming to Z, because Z is not declared, this also remains the same, 1, 8. It is just similar to our static coordinate system itself. So at this level also you don't find any difference. Now coming to FOE, once you are through FOE, so FOE means, you see in the FOE what is declared? Z is declared. Z is declared, right? So this is declared. Now X will not change, it remains the same, and Y also will not change because we have not redeclared, and Z will change because it has been declared. So this is what we get. So here also we will update. So in this at phi, inside phi, X1 and Z1 is reused, and inside FOE only Z3 is used, and remember that we are not using 1, 4 for Y. Why? Because see, how did I maintain in the stack? Like this only I'm maintaining. Okay, I'm maintaining the names like this. So when I pop out, what happens? I will get Y2 only first. Okay, whether it is nested or whatever, I get something like this. So Z3, it will be using what? Z3 only, because it is a redeclared new declaration. For Y, when it is searching for Y, it will encounter Y2 first. So it will be using Y2. Okay, and then when it is searching for X, no other go, it has not been redeclared, so it will be using X1 only. So it will come all the way like this downwards, and it will get X over here, and that's why it uses X1. Okay, that is about the FOE function. Now coming to FEE. See, inside FOE, that is the body of the FOE, inside that we have called FEE. Okay, coming to FEE, what is happening in FEE? Now X has been redeclared. Okay, so X has been redeclared means now what happens? We are going to have this X2 over here. Okay, so X2 over here. So coming to this particular phi function, what happens? For X, it changes, even though I declare it as X2, but you see the level, how the levels are maintained, that is the difference. I am calling the name as X2 only, but what is happening here, you see, are you able to see this portion? I have renamed it as X4. That is the difference between the static and the dynamic. Means in case of static, I would have used 2 as a level number. But in case of dynamic coordinates, I will use the level number as what? It is 4. Even though my name says X2, but I will push 4 only, or I will insert 4 only as the level. Okay. So it means that it is not X2 actually. It is actually what? X4 according to my dynamic coordinate system. And what is it? Only X has been redeclared inside phi. Therefore, I will have to use the offset as 0 only. So I just use the offset as 0. So that is about the. So I am here now at phi, which is at level 3, and inside phi, whatever comes, that will be taken as level 4. Therefore, the level of X becomes now 4, and it is at offset 0. And only X has been declared within phi. And what about Y then? What about Y? Y will use, so it will start from the top once again. Where it will encounter Y, it will encounter here. So it will be using the most recent, that is Y2 only. And then what about Z? Again, it will start from the top. What is there for Z? Z is also 3, 0. That's why it will take. That's why I use the term closest. Closest means whatever is recently pushed onto the stack. That's what it is going to use. Okay, so that's about phi. Now coming to FUM, this diagram is very important. Without this, if you try to do it, no, then maybe you will not find any difference between the static coordinate and the dynamic coordinate. So the diagram is important, and also you should track the numbers, this subscript. So you can change the subscript according to this, because this code was created for just to have the lexical scope. But I want to find the dynamic coordinates also. That's why we are doing this, right? So after phi means when we have called phi from where here, the control comes back here and then it will execute FUM. So the control goes back here and then it will call the function FUM. So once it calls FUM, you see the FUM function. Within FUM, what is redeclared? It is redeclared for Y. And also you see the level, that is the depth of this particular function. So the depth is what? It is at 3. So inside that, whatever comes, it will be at level 4. So level 4 means like just like how we use X4 here, we are going to use Y4. So what happens now? I have a new variable declaration in this scope. So I insert or I push Y onto the stack, and which is going to be Y4. And that is the only declaration. Therefore, what we have is what? We have 4, 0. And now what about this X then? What about this X? Remember that this X4 has been popped. That's very important. Okay, this X4 has been popped, and now once I start, means before pushing Y4 only, it would have been popped, because once it returns, see, returning is nothing but you have to take out the content related to that particular function which has been created. The scope ends over there. Then what happens is when it returns here in this step, what happens? X4 is destroyed. So it is destroyed means now when I search for X, so where it goes, it will go all the way till here and it finds X over here. That's why it is using back the same thing, that is X1. Okay, so X1 is the scope, and for Y only we have changed, which becomes Y4, and then 0 is the offset. And what about Z? Did we do anything for Z? No, it has to use the previous scope. The immediate previous is what? Again, if you start searching in the stack from the top, it will encounter Z3. So therefore, here it is going to use Z3. So this is Z3, and this is very important point. It is not X4 now, it is X1, because it has returned from the function. So now once you finish this FUM function, so it ends there. That is FUM body also. If you see the body of that function, whatever happens inside that, so let it happen. And inside the FUM function, you see anything is happening. Yes, there is another call from FUM. So what happens now? From FUM, remember that from FUM it is continuing. It is continuing, and the next level it goes. So what is the next level then? It calls phi, and it is at level 4, and inside FEE, whatever comes, so it should be treated as level 5. Okay, so inside FEE, what is there? We have, that is X declaration. So this, instead of X2, what do? I use X5. I use, X5. Now I push X5 onto the stack. So what about Y then? This Y4 exists or does not exist, students? Should it exist or not? Students, are you with me or not? Somebody answer. What should I assume if you don't answer? Are you understanding?
It shouldn't exist.
Shouldn't or should?
Shouldn't.
Okay, why? Why is it so?
It's outside the scope, in the code.
Vishnu, see here. When I called FUM from here, are you able to see this FUM3? So from phi we returned back, and that is closed now. So FUM, when I called FUM, inside the FUM only I'm calling FEE. Isn't it? So it should exist, right? It should exist, right? Yes or no? See this diagram also you see. I'm just going in this path. So here from here I returned because there was one more thing to be completed from FOE. That's why I had to return back. But from FOE I'm continuing with the FUM function, and inside FUM function only we are calling FEE. So it should exist, isn't it? So means X only I'm declaring, X only I'm declaring, and now Y, what it will use? It will use the previous one, whatever was created during the FUM. So that is Y4 it will be using, and the offset is 0 only, and it is going to use Z3. This will not change. Means Y4 should exist. Only one. Now, once I finish FEE, FEE means this one I am going to finish. This particular function I am going to finish and then return back here. Now, yes, you can remove. It return back. It will return back, and then from here it goes back to FUM. From here it goes back to FOE, and like this it goes. So once it is going back, then you can remove. Okay, but at that time it was not returning. We were just continuing with the execution of FUM. As a part of the execution of FUM only, we are calling FEE. So it is active. FUM is still active. Within that FUM only, we are calling FEE. Therefore, it should exist. Otherwise, we would have removed. Suppose you had not called FEE, and then if you return directly from FUM, then yeah, you would have destroyed. But it is inside that only we are calling. That's the difference. So even though I have a nested structure, and how you call within what function, what you are calling matters. So until you return that value or the name will exist. So the same scope will be used. So always we will search through from the top only. So if it is existing, whatever comes first only we are going to take. That's how we get at this level at phi, that is the last function which is called in the sequence, that is the last depth I can say. So we will be using, it is not x4 now, it is going to be x5, and then we are going to use y4, and then we are going to use z3. That's how it works. Okay. So now maybe you can compare these two examples, and if you have any doubts you can ask, otherwise I'll proceed with the next topic. You have to push and see, then only it will be clear for you students. And whenever you return, you have to pop that content which was created because the scope of that ends. And still if it is active, means the activation record still exists in the stack, it means that you are still having those variables live. Therefore, you have to maintain that in the stack also. That's all. So this is the difference. See, in the same way, the static coordinate will not work. Static coordinate will work like how we have used the subscriptor, it works similar to that. So I gave this example because most of the time lexical scope only is used. Only in rare cases we will be using the dynamic scoping, and then especially whenever you have something in the runtime doing, whenever you maintain the runtime environment, and whenever you reuse so many names and so many calls when you do only, this will come into picture. So it depends upon how you are going to use your functions. Based on that only everything will change. But anyway, we want a way to access the variables. That is our main intention. It's not just maintaining it because we want to access something from somewhere. That's why we want to maintain this particular table. Okay, that's how the dynamic coordinate table will help you to access. So anytime when I want to access something, I should know the level number and the offset. It is very easy to access that particular variable. Okay, so now whether Priyadarshini is having any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, maybe I will proceed with one or two slides more. I can finish, I think. You can think. You can come back later also, not a problem. You don't have to instantly ask the questions. You can compare these two examples. It is very clear that how it is handled. The main point is for the lexical scope will be using the nesting relationship, and for the dynamic scope will be using the calling relationships. These two things points, if you remember, then it will be easy. Then also you try to mark whenever you draw the graph. Now you mark the levels for each function, and inside when it enters the body of that particular function, you know what is happening, whether the redeclaration is done or not. Accordingly, you will have to maintain the subscript of the variables. So if you are able to do this, then the construction of the table is very easy. Okay. So maybe towards the end, if you have any doubts, you can ask. I'll proceed with the next 1 or 2 slides I can complete. So what is that we are doing with the runtime storage organization then? We do save the local variables. Means where does it go? We have many queries like this. Where does the local variables be saved? So that, yes, we can answer using this concept. And also, how do we allocate them in the stack? Already I had given for an organization for the activation record. In the same way, actually that particular organization, whatever I gave, is a classical organization where most of the architectures will make use of that kind of organization, memory organization. So anyway, if you are very specific to some machine or something, then accordingly we will have to use it. But anyway, all these are like logical, that is a virtual. So whatever I had given, that is a very general structure. So using that kind of structure only for activation record, will be saving all the content. And also, please note that whenever we want to save something, the lifetime of the variables are very important. And whenever we call the procedures, the new activation records are created. And also the important thing is whether you are using the lexical scoping or dynamic scoping. Some languages support lexical scoping, and some languages it is needed to have the dynamic scoping, because most of the things happens in the runtime. Therefore, we will have to make use of the dynamic scoping. And all these are important only when your code is very complex. If you don't have many functions, when you're not reusing the names, when you don't have any restrictions on the namespaces, then all these will never be used. So these concepts are not important then. But we have many recent languages where we need all these. We will be using, we don't restrict on the names. We don't restrict on the scope. So we have to manage, and we have to still get the values that have to be used properly and to get the desired output. So that's how we are going to create in the downward direction, and also whenever we return, it will destroy or it will deallocate in the upward direction for the runtime environment. So for the stack, always it will go in the downward direction. That is the activation or the creation will be in the downward direction, and for returning it will be in the reverse direction. That is from the back it will start. Whereas for the heap, always it will grow in the runtime environment in the upward direction, and whenever you want to remove something, it will be in the reverse direction. So that is why I had given this particular diagram, where see stack always it grows in this direction, and heap it grows in this direction. And the difference between the stack and heap is for the stack we have the restricted lifetime, means till you are running that particular function, only till then it will be available in the stack, and once you return from that particular function, it is deallocated. So its lifetime is restricted. Whereas for the heap, the requirement itself is so that you want to use these data even after coming out of the function. In that situation, maybe it's very important to retain the data. Therefore, we make use of the heaps. Okay, so only in some situations we'll make use of the heaps, because you don't know the size in advance, you don't know anything, only in the runtime you will come to know. Then pre-computation will not help. Therefore, we will have to depend on the heap. Okay. Otherwise, in the regular situation, in the normal situation, it will be using the stack only for creating the activation record, and also it will maintain all the pointers, whatever is essential, like activation record pointer or access link, something like this. But it is also possible to use the heap because the lifetime can be extended. The only advantage of using the heap is you can extend the lifetime even after returning from the function. Still, you can hold all the data in the memory. So that is the advantage. So coming to the types of variables, many times we use the static variables. As the name itself says, you know everything at the compile time. You know the space required, how much space is required, and it is allocated at compile time itself. It doesn't have to wait till the runtime. You know everything. It is fixed. So therefore, you can give the access based on the naming scheme. So if it is lexical, then you go accordingly. If it is dynamic, then you go accordingly. So in that way, it will be based on the naming scheme, the scopes also will be decided and the access also will be given. Similarly, we have the global variables. Global variables are just similar to the static variables. The only thing is that the layout itself is in such a way that it is exposed to all the parts of your program. Therefore, the naming scheme also ensures that it is having a universal access. So whatever is innermost, you will use many times, and if nothing is available, if nothing is recent, then it will go and use the global variables itself. So the addressing also will be maintained in that way only. Usually this is the organization, whatever is shown in the right side diagram. So this will be the classical organization. We have some space for code. Then we have the static data and the global data, which is almost fixed. We know everything in the compile time. And then during the runtime, we will have to maintain the stack for the activation record and for running through the functions. So we maintain that. And if you want to increase the lifetime of the variables and the data, then you'll be using the heap. And for all this, definitely the linkage editor must support, and therefore it will define all this, whatever has to be handled, it will take care of that. Okay, and also whenever you have the local variables in the procedures, whether I'm running out of time, I will finish this and stop maybe. So whenever you have the local variables, yes, the local variables are maintained into the stack. Already I had told you when the activation record is created, whatever variables are created in that particular function, it has to be maintained, and it will be in the activation record till it returns from that function. And anyway, all these variables may be of fixed size, and also the lifetimes are limited, because till it returns only that local variables will exist, and all the values are not preserved after that. So once you return from the function, you are going to lose those values, or maybe you can see that it is overwritten for that particular name. And that is for the static thing. If at all you want to use dynamically something, then it will be little bit treated in a different way, like how I showed dynamic scoping. Similarly, maybe I will have to use, if I take call by value for static, then definitely for call by reference will be an example for dynamically allocated, because it can change, and it will be that whatever changes you make, it can be seen outside the function also. So whatever changes you make, that is seen outside the function. That is the advantage of using the call by reference or the pass by reference. And also you'll be using the pointers where the address will take care, and whatever changes you make, again you can read those values, the recent ones, whatever you have updated, that you can easily get. And also lifetimes are not fixed. Whenever you want to extend, you can extend using the dynamically allocated variables. During this situation only we go with the heaps, because we want to extend the lifetime, we want to go beyond the function activation. So once you use the stack, it will just push, and it will pop after some time once it is returning. But if you want to go beyond that, then we'll be using the heap structure. Okay, and also you can either give the explicit allocation or implicit deallocation also can be done. Implicit or explicit deallocation can be done. It is based on the requirement of the programmers. If you insist to do deallocation, yes, it can be done. Otherwise, it will remain for some time. Whatever you define the lifetime, it will remain for that long. Okay, so that's how the runtime storage organization works. So this I will take up in the next class. I can stop here. If you have any doubts today's class portions, those examples and this managing the runtime, you can ask me, students. Yes, Vishnu, your doubt is cleared. Yesterday you had some doubt, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And now it is clear. Okay. Priyadarshan, what about you?
Ma'am, can you give one more example, ma'am, like a long code with mix,
Yes,
like
yes.
similar kind?
Yes, definitely I'll do towards the end, because I have some topics to be completed. Along with that, I will complete. So that will be more better. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, students. Thank you. One more minute left. If you have anything, you can ask me.
Ma'am.
Yes.
So not regarding today's class. Actually, it's regarding the project presentation.
Okay.
So like initially when we were getting the projects approved,